Um, what I said was, this is all infrastructure. At the end of the day, you kick it out from under you and you soar. So just don't get too fixated on anything that we're talking about because these are all just forms and frames. At the end of the day, conversational hypnosis is content free and context free. So just remember that these are not rules and they're not written in stone. They're all flexible inflection points. Inflection points mean they can meet at all different junctures in all different ways, in a multitude, infinitude of ways. That's what's cool about this. So don't feel like I need to know it, I need to memorize it, I need to get it right. No, none of that. You're just building a skill so that you get smarter and better at it. But at the end of the day, it's already in you. The other thing I wanted to say while I was taking the break was, isn't it cool how you've seen all these different versions of hypnosis now? You've seen Gilles do hypnosis, you've seen Jody do hypnosis, you've seen Royson, and just take out what was said and take out the instructional value of it and just think of the feeling of it. Just do you notice how they all have their own feel? Gilles has this one way, Jody's has this one way, Royson's has this one way, mine has this one way. That's why you need to do the job because that way of hypnosis somebody needs, and it's not my way. So you got to think about that, the feel of it. Who needs that? That's why I'm called to this. That's why I'm talking about, that's why you're called to this. Like Jody, you have this mom warmth, you've been through 12 step, you've been through addiction, you like know the deal. That's the feel I get from you. Gilles, you have like a clinician in you who's doing some other things with life now, like recognizes that other people have that in them, like men who need to get in touch with their sensitivity. I don't know, you could do all kinds of things, but you have this thing. Royson has this like intellectual side of her, very quiet side, very kind of able to detach with warmth. Like you all have these certain characteristics that are so interesting to follow and develop. That's why you need to see more people so you can find out what that is for you. Then you won't be sitting here wondering, how does she do it? Because it's irrelevant what I do. And I'm sure Melanie has it too. I just haven't seen it yet. Okay, here's my favorite part of the course. Was that enough of a rah-rah pep talk for you? Okay, so what we're going to study next is first principles. Why? Why first principles? Okay, for one reason is because I have a doctorate in the ancient world, and it's always occurring to me how, like, why did I do those studies? What is the point of that? How does it relate to my life now? Like, how am I benefiting from all the books that I read and all the languages that I had to work on? And a lot of it is a context-free and content-free approach is not material, right? It's not part of the world. So what is it based on then? Like, why does it attract me? Why am I excited by it? Well, because there's empty space there, because it's based not on rules, not on protocols, not on scripts, but on principles. If something is based on principles, it means what I just said in the little intro, which is it can go anywhere. It has infinite inflection points. If it's based on rules, it can only go a certain number of places. That's why this is such a, to me, like beautiful and wild experience, and why it calls people who actually have like open souls, because you have to like be willing to do that adventure. You have to be willing to allow people their opinions. You have to be willing to follow any of the images that I've showed you that hypnosis feels like to me. So that takes a lot of flexibility. How do you create that? How does that become your daily thing? Well, because it's built on principles. So a principle is like a bare minimum, like the bare bottom of something. So this is Aristotle, who was, the first guy about first principles. And so he asked questions like, what is, what is the way to be a good citizen? And then people would say, like, follow the law. And then he would be like, why? Why follow the law? Because God says so. Why does God say so? Because we have to be good people. Why? Why do we have to be good people? And this is how first principles conversations go. They go down to the bottom line. And that's how hypnosis goes too, to the bottom line. Well, why do we have to believe that? But why does it have to be that way? But why did you get to that point in your life? But what is the point of that? So it's a first principles exercise. Well, now the business model has to reflect that same attitude, which is not the attitude of the vast majority of businesses, which follow, material structures. So what's the deal? Like that's a weird claim. At this stage in your healer evolution, you have this ability to get fast results. Now, we want to use this principles-based abnormal approach to break the status quo. Because as I said, the status quo is not based on principles, it's based on epistemology, it's based on experience, it's based on tradition. None of those things are provable. None of those things are facts. Epistemology means like the study of what's happening, but the study of what's happening isn't the study of what it needs to be. It's just the study of what it is. So to create a measuring stick for the business that actually coheres with the philosophy of the business, we have to now think about it in a different way, which is the abnormal way, which is a principles-based way, first principles-based way. So the status quo is these guys, monkey see, monkey do, right? And you guys are all experienced in this industry. You actually much more than me, by the way. You guys have been in this industry like decades, not me. So you know the status quo. You know the status quo is 12 sessions, 18 sessions, $200, $50 here, whatever the fuck it is. I don't even know what it is exactly. I mean, I do know because I've bought it. But the current status quo has defined this box that is limiting the way you design your business inherently. And by the way, I'm not making this up because Melanie showed us that in her session yesterday. Gilles has been showing that in his resistance. Like you're admitting that you think about coming to this field from a certain viewpoint, which is the way everybody has always done it. And that's why you have questions. That's why you have doubts. Oh, do I have to give my refund? Oh, how do I talk them into a 2-hour session instead of this? How do I change my schedule? Blah, 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 blah. It's because you're boxed into that other way of doing it, which makes sense. I mean, that's how you were educated. That's how I was educated too. But now we're going to change that. So we're going to stop doing this constant, basic, identical, carbon copy, normal, monkey see, monkey do, excuse my mixed metaphors here, zombie following zombie. Like this approach, did I lay it on thick enough? This approach is fucking boring and obsolete. That's my position. It's a big claim, and I'm not insulting people who are doing it because I've used it, and I think it's a great thing that we have so much mental health available. But as with every industry, it has become expected. And in that becoming expected, it doesn't deliver. So if you get real about that, now we're back to realism, then you can really set yourself apart. And so I think being honest about that will help you. The abnormal way of thinking about it is this way, which is your new business's way, which breaks rules and formulates a new reality. The new reality is based on principles. Normal gets normal, abnormal gets abnormal. Everybody has heard that a million times. That's the truth of taking action. This is me at 45. It's a bit abnormal because I do abnormal things, because I want to have an abnormal life, because I am abnormal. So it's just what you choose. If you want your business to be abnormal and based on principles that are, that's what you're going to end up with. Okay, so before we do Erickson, I want to So this is like 5 minutes on what first principles are. It's boring. I don't want to share Elon Musk anymore because I'm not aligned with his values in any way. But I do think the first principles theory of his businesses, which, as I said, originates with Aristotle, not with Elon Musk. But it is interesting, and it will help you to think about how to organize your business and your product.
Multi-billion-dollar companies in different fields, well, he used first principles.
Can you hear?
Just like him, Aristoteles, Thomas Edison, or Nikola Tesla all used this strategy for solving difficult problems and creating outstanding innovation. First principles thinking is one of the most effective ways to solve problems. Today I show you how you can use this technique to unlock your creative potential. First of all, what exactly is first principles thinking? Basically, first principles are basic assumptions that can't be deducted any further. Aristotle defined them as the first basis from which a thing is known. You have to actively question every assumption you think you know about the problem. Once you are at the very beginning of a problem, you can start to create new knowledge and solutions from scratch. Rather than following the majority of people, you create your own assumptions to achieve true innovation. Building knowledge and solving problems based on prior assumptions can lead to bad decisions, even if the people behind the decisions are actually smart. Just doing what everybody does isn't a good way to solve problems. First principles will help you to develop a unique worldview. Reasoning by first principles is one of the best mental techniques you can use to improve your thinking. I think the following example will give you a good idea of what first principle thinking is all about. Imagine you have a motorboat with skiers behind it, a military tank, and a bicycle. What most people would think if they see those things is exactly what they are. So they would see a motorboat, a tank, or a bicycle. But first principle thinkers would see a motor, metal treats, skis, a seat, handlebars, and many more. Then they would think about what you can create out of these different parts. Do you know it? You can create a snowmobile out of it. We broke the situation down into its core pieces to create a new innovative product. This technique of thinking maybe sounds like only really smart people could use it. That's not true. Everybody can use first principles to achieve a smarter way of thinking. Let's break down the process of breaking down to make first principles thinking available for everyone. Step 1. Identify your current problem. Just think about what is holding you back right now or which problem you will face in the future. You can take whatever problem you have, but I recommend you to start practicing first principles thinking with a small problem. In this example, a business owner wants to grow his company. The problem he's facing is that it costs a lot of money to make this happen. Write down your problems to work with them. Like Albert Einstein said, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. This quote shows how important it is to know your true problems. If you don't know your problems, how will you even start solving them? Step 2. Break down the problem. Elon Musk explains breaking down a problem with a tree. You first have to understand the fundamental principles of your problem. These principles represent the trunk and the branches. After understanding them, you can go into the details, which represent the leaves. If you don't have the trunk and its branches, the leaves have nothing to hang on to. So if you didn't understand why you can't solve a problem, you can't go into detail to solve it. Elon Musk used this method with battery packs. Originally, battery packs costed $600 per kilowatt hour. By breaking down the problem of a way too expensive battery pack, he found that it's made out of cobalt, nickel, aluminium, carbon, some polymers for separation, and a seal can. Then he looked up the prices of these things and found that they go for $80 per kilowatt hour. He still has to put them together in a smart way, but by using this method, he discovered the potential of a way cheaper battery pack. Musk asked powerful questions and got powerful answers by breaking down the problem. Step 3. Create new solutions. Now you broke your problem down into its main pieces. From here you can start to rebuild the whole process without socially accepted beliefs. Let's bring back the businessman who wants to grow his company. The problem he has is that it costs a lot of money. He starts to break down his problem with first principles thinking. After some time, he realized in order to get more money, he needs to sell more products to more customers. So, how can he reach more customers without spending too much money? He needs a business partner in his niche. By cooperating with a partner, both of them can expand their business. It's basically a win-win deal because they both make more money by serving a larger number of customers, and to keep it all fair, they split their profits 50-50. By identifying his current problem, he broke it down into what he needs to solve it, and from there, he built a solution for the problem. First principles thinking doesn't remove the need for improvement, but it changes the way we improve things. It's very useful if you do something new for the first time, if you have to deal with a really complex problem, or if you try to understand your current situation. First principles thinking helps you to think on your own, because you stop others to frame the problem for you. Never underestimate yourself and what you can achieve. Elon Musk said, "I think most people can learn a lot more than they think they can. They sell themselves short without trying." Believe in yourself and use first principles to solve problems. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve. Take care of yourself. We'll see us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope this video helps you to achieve a smarter living.
You can hear it, right? The whole video? You could see it too. I just couldn't tell what you could see. Okay, but so 2 levels of reflection there. One, of course, is conversational hypnosis is a battery that's been reformulated, right? So part of what we're reflecting in the business model is the principle of the product. That's why it's so interesting and cool to see that analogy. When I explain hypnosis to people, as you will see in my discovery call, one thing I often say is, to me, the method I'm using is an AI model, which reflects that whole battery pack example, which means I take the pieces of traditional hypnosis, like induction, deepening, testing, inquiring, whatever, and now we've reformatted it into the cheaper, faster battery pack, which is what conversational hypnosis is. So it's taking the raw materials and repacking them so it's a better product. Well, your business follows that exact same model, which is, why are we building it by analogy, selling packages, selling whole, constructs, when the whole thing just works on what's the problem and what's the fucking solution? If you can just do that, that's the whole sale. So the point of the lesson today is to get down to that extremely, I think, simple, although it's very sophisticated, way of thinking about your product. When it really comes down to it, I only have one product: problem solving, reliable problem solving. I'm a fixer. That's it. It doesn't have too much else. All of the other bells and whistles are irrelevant because that's why people hire me. Okay, questions, thoughts? Does it make sense so far? We're going to go deeper into it.